Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Image Builders Presents, a conversation with Michael Carson. I'm your host, Michael Carson. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Thursday night. For those of you in Georgia, we hope that you are in Mississippi and abroad. We hope that you all are doing well. We had some serious weather this week with tornadoes and tornado bursts, and there were a lot of fallen trees and debris. So we hope that everyone is doing well, and continued prayers and blessings for those of you that had property damage or any loss of life or anything catastrophic like that. You are definitely in our thoughts and prayers. For those of you that are watching me tonight on Facebook, make sure you click the share and the like button. Let people know that you're watching. Share it with others so that they can tune in. For those of you that are watching me on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified whenever we go live on YouTube. Tonight's show is entitled A Road to Redemption. This is the first in a series of shows that we're going to do coming up about health, mental health, therapy, just bringing a plethora of guests on and people to have roundtables and have discussions about it. And then how we as Black men can deal with it. And what we want to always do is make sure that we leave each show with strategy. So tonight is no different. So tonight I have what I consider a Renaissance man on our show. He's going to explain to you more about his background, who he is, what he's done. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Minister Levi Butler. We're going to add him to the stream. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. And how are you?
I'm doing good. I said when we were in the broadcast booth before the show started, I'm like, you looking awful snazzy. I mean, you got the whole backdrop and everything. I look underdressed to come to the show. It's a pleasure,
kind, sir.
Yeah, it's a pleasure
to be. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm quite excited about the opportunity to meet with you.
Yeah, and you and I have had a couple of conversations prior to the show. We talked about how we wanted this show to go, and I wanted to give you an opportunity because your story, the things we talked about, was so compelling. I wanted to give you as much time as possible to share and to talk. So, for those of you that are watching tonight, you're going to hear a lot from Minister Butler. I have questions that we're going to get to, but I'm going to give him some leeway tonight to get into some things that I think are important to share. So that we can get started, Minister Butler, tell people a little bit about who you are and tell us if you see the road there, life's a journey. We all are traveling that journey. Talk a little bit about your journey.
Thank you so much. And thank you again for the opportunity to share my story. Yep. Well, I'm a little country boy from Statesboro, Georgia. Born to parents of Mr. and Levi Butler. My father was a business owner. My mom, educator, school teacher. You can see her picture that way behind me. And my father's on the other side.
Okay.
So I'm the only child, born in very comfortably, I might say, by no means rich, but we were comfortable. And I wanted for nothing, except there was two things I wanted I never got. I wanted a brother or sister, and I wanted a pony. Those two things I never got. Other than that, I can say there was not little that anything I can think of that I wanted I never received. This is a 30-minute show, so I can tell you a lot about me, but I want to give you just the big picture. I left home to attend college, Southern University, go Jaguars, and there I finished college in 1971, actually. Later on, education-wise, I did go to seminary at ITC, one of the best experiences of my life. I was introduced to a God that I didn't know. I was introduced to a God very different from the God that my mother not my mother, actually my grandmother told me about. But let me just tell you a quick story, and I'm going to come back to this if you'll indulge me just for a moment. We all know about the story about the little boy and Jesus feeding the 5,000, and Jesus got a basket of fishes and loaves of bread, and he fed all these people. And then the story is told often, and then, oh, he fed 5,000, and handkerchiefs go up, and ham and organ do a few rips, and people are falling out. He fed the 5,000. But not much is said about the little boy. We don't know much about the little boy. We can make some assumptions safely about him. I doubt he stopped at the market and bought some fish and bread for the event. Perhaps, I'm safe to say, a mother fixed a little lunch for him and perhaps said share it or fixed lunch for him. Let's just say that. So he had something to offer in a big way. And Jesus thought he had something to offer. And obviously, we know how that story ended. Okay, I'm that little boy for the moment, okay? I have something to offer. But I had some experiences growing up that colored my thinking and colored my worth, that said I had no value. It is difficult growing up as a Black man in America, especially these days. So I had the indignity of being molested by an adult male that changed the trajectory of my life. So it never got dealt with. Never, I put it away in a space that it never got dealt with. Now, this being May being Mental Health Month, I'd like to opportune time to talk about mental health and how it impacts your life and those kind of things. And I did not have the courage to talk about that, even mention it. It was in recesses of my mind and never, ever dealt with, because came with that experience shame, guilt. I blame myself. My God, I was an 8, 9-year-old kid. But that caused a lot of problems for me. Unfortunately, we're in a culture, I'm talking about now the Black community, where you don't discuss anything like that. And because we don't have a language to talk about it, so it's not discussed. So I was weighted with that baggage. But I just want to mention also that I wrote this letter. I actually don't know when I wrote this, some years ago. I read a book, and the book, just reading the foreword of this book, is by Dr. Daniel Black. You may have familiar with it. It was quite popular. But something about that struck a chord. Now, I am 72 years old, and I read this book maybe, 10 years ago. I don't even remember now. And I wrote this letter after reading the foreword to that book. So I read, "Pray for me. I want so very much to die, but God won't let me. I want so very much to die, but the lack of courage to end my life, I don't have the courage to end my own life. I want so very much to die, to find quiet, but the noise of my thoughts disturb me. But I want one day, I will die one day, but only after I fulfill my purpose for which I came. Pray for me." I emailed this, and there's more to this, but again, the show is very short. I emailed this to the author of that book. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, Dr. Black called me. I was stunned. He didn't know me. I'm just reaching out, and he called me. And he said, I'm going to come visit you. But he said, before I do, finish the book. So I did. So I did meet him and we became friends. I don't see him anymore. I thought we'd be lasting friends, but people come in your life just for a season.
Right.
But for that moment, I needed to call out to someone to say something because I was in so much pain. So let me also say why I'm coming on this show, your show. I want to say, why now? Why now tell the story? Well, I have the courage to tell it now because I've been in therapy for many years. I'm very, very fortunate now to meet a therapist. I've had some good therapists, by the way. And I'm very fortunate to meet a therapist at the Emory Health Center, Dr. Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And so he suggested, you might want to talk to Mr. Carson and you have a story to tell. And he sort of pushed me a little bit to share this story. And because I've been in mental health and I've talked about it, it has been tremendous. And I can say a lot about that. But I know in my ministry, when I was in ITC, I would visit the jails, the prisons.
Right.
And I was assigned a particular pod in the prison. And men would sign up to talk to me. And I would listen. And somehow in the conversation, we talked about pain, being locked up. And I'm saying, I'm in prison as well, but I've imprisoned myself. And I would share that story. And invariably, so many men in prison would say, it happened to me.
Yeah.
You would have to sign up to talk to me. And my sign up list got longer and longer and longer. And if the word got around the prison that there was a minister here you can talk to who would listen and who would not preach to you. So my experience is not anecdotal. I mean, it's yes, it's my experience, but it's real.
Right.
And I know there are many others having the same experience who won't talk about it. Inexperience.
Yeah.
So I can say more. You want me to stop now? You got some questions?
Yeah, I mean,
I can talk about all kinds of stuff. I mean,
I want you to. Yeah, I want to get a question in if I could.
Okay.
So you tell this story, and I've heard this story because we've had the conversation, and I was moved by it, and even hearing it again, I'm still moved by it. But in spite of, I mean, you've had a successful career. Interior designer. Is it IBM? You're a father. You're a granddad. So with that baggage, you were still able to still travel your road. It didn't stop you. What gave you the courage to keep going in spite of?
Okay. Well, let me say this. I am so proud and so privileged to have a wonderful daughter who has gifted me with 3 fabulous grandkids. And there's a term in French, they put it this way, mon raison d'être. And in French, that's my reason for being. That's the best translation I can give you. Well, my daughter and my 3 grandkids are my reason for being. And it's because of them, I didn't take my life. So, yes, I've made some successes. I've had some successes, but I never really thought I deserved anything that I've got. So I wasn't clear of that baggage. I mean, it's in your head. It impacts your life. I wasn't the best father I could have been. I certainly wasn't the best husband I could have been. And everything I've done, it could have been so much more, but I didn't think I deserved but just a certain point in my life. And so I would sabotage what appeared to be successes. So things are not what they appear to be. And the point I want to make here is that have grown to learn how to wear masks. And I had this mask that you would think I was okay, but I really wasn't. And I know that many men and women out here with masks. Again, our culture won't allow us to talk about these painful experiences. So, and that's the point. And especially this particular time, this is a difficult time, at this moment in our lives that we're finding ourselves. It's hard on everyone.
Yeah.
And you are impacted whether you know it or not. So, yes, they were successes, but they were successes that could have been a lot more.
Okay.
And so now I'm at a point now that the things that I know God has for me to do, that I must do.
Right.
So my kids were my child and grandkids were my first impetus for not taking my life. But now I want to live for me. It's not their responsibility. I don't want to lay that on them.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility. I own this. And so I can talk about anything. And I'm doing this. The other reason I'm doing this is for my grandkids.
Yeah.
I want them to know that there is absolutely nothing that they cannot talk with. They call me Poppy. We're Poppy. I have no secrets. I can tell them anything about my personal life, why I divorced, why I married, anything. Because I want to know that door is open for them.
Yes.
Right now, I'm estranged from the family. At least that's my perception. And so that's another reason I'm coming in this format in a way. They're always YouTube and Instagram. This is their life.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to them in a way, in a medium that they're comfortable with. But I want them to know that there's not a single day that goes by that I don't think about them. Not one. So I think that's important because I'm thinking of a term that's intersectionality. That's what I'm going to talk about just for a second.
All right.
And I want to give credit, to an amazing young woman who she coined the term. And it talks about intersectionality, it talks about I'm sorry here. I'm looking for her name. Kimberly Williams Crenshaw. She talks about how there's different layers of discrimination affects women. It's not just racial, it's sexual, it's minimalism, it's society. All these factors layer that impacts you. Well, all these factors impact men as well. So it's not just that I was abused and molested that impact me. Racism, marginalism. I'm somewhat of a heretic. I think out of the box, and all those things sort of made me feel like I was kind of weird. But now I've come to accept my weirdness as being okay. And so that's one point I want to make. I just want to let my grands. It's for those because I know they've been impacted by what goes on in this world today. You can't help it.
Before we break, there's two statements you made when we met, and you made the statement, "You don't own your victimhood." Briefly explain what you meant by that.
Okay, so when you see yourself as a victim, then what you did is you have given all your power away to address the issue. If I say I'm a victim of being molested, I've given my power. I am a survivor of being molested. Because yes, I was a kid. Yes, I was 8 years old. I was tremendously confused. I was in so much pain that I didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
But I grew to a point, and then God put certain people in my life that through therapy and conversations, and I've had so many wonderful experiences that I got to a point that said, look, I'm going to own this because it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. God can respond to us in many ways. God will say yes to a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
God will say no to a prayer. Or God will be silent.
Oh, yeah.
And my prayer to God was, why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
I never got an answer. So that caused problems for me with God. So me and God had a little falling out.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some issues with you, God, but I got a God I can talk to. Now that's the God that my grandmother would like. You don't talk to God, you don't question God, you certainly don't challenge God. And I'm a custom preacher. I let him have it. So if anybody can take it, he can.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me with that piece. That's a long answer. I'm sorry. It's a short show here.
That's
I don't run out of time, but
no,
I'm
we're
answering
good.
your question is that I am a survivor. I survived my mother dying at 18.
Mm-hmm.
I survived my father dying at 24. I was divorced. That was a painful situation. Although I asked for the divorce, I was not the best husband, by the way, and I'm not claiming that. So out of my abuse came a lot of confusion,
Mm-hmm.
and I hurt my wife very much, and I suffered a lot for that. By the way, she's a wonderful woman, wonderful grandmother, and I love her dearly. But the things I know now, I didn't know then.
Right.
I've had a house fire. I lost a job at IBM. I didn't know who I was because I thought I was an IBMer. That's all I knew I was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a job working in a company out of Europe, making tons of money. I lost a job, cancer. So if I saw myself as each case a victim, I wouldn't be here. I'm a survivor. So there you go.
The second
Can't take
point,
me out like that.
the second statement you made is, what are you going to do in the moment? If you could briefly explain what you meant by that. What are you going to do in the moment?
Okay. All right. So I know through my experiences, as I mentioned earlier about the prison ministry, and I've worked for a brief period with women who were enslaved in sex trafficking and had horrible experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that they still had hope. And because of my experiences, and because of where I am, I've started a ministry, a nonprofit organization called the New Hope Foundation of Atlanta. And in this foundation,
we're going to get
providing
into
a nurturing. I'm sorry?
We're going to get into New Hope.
Okay, that's fine. So, well, that's what I'm going to do with this. I mean, I have no choice. I have to. I mean, I have no choice.
So this is a good segue. I know what the clock says, but if you'll indulge me, we can go over. So we control the length of the show. So if you'll indulge me,
it's your show.
Okay,
it's your show. I'm here. I've had dinner and I'm good.
For those of you that are watching, I'm here with Minister Levi Butler. We're our subject tonight is the road to redemption. Just if you've been listening, some profound words, also a profound story. And as he shared, his story is in some ways not like some other stories, and some just differences as we all travel this road called life. We want to spend the rest of our time tonight talking about New Hope, which he kind of talked about a little bit, but New Hope, and talk about some strategies for success. Again, we never want to end the show with just talking about problems, or we don't want you to leave thinking, man, that was just too heavy, but I didn't really get much of it out of it other than just being heavy. So this is our time to segue into New Hope. So Minister Butler, talk about a little bit about New Hope. You just mentioned a little bit that you were doing some work around sex trafficking. Talk about some of the other things you want to do with New Hope as the organization progresses.
Okay. New Hope is an organization that is a replication of an organization that's been extremely successful in San Francisco. And this idea has been haunting me for years, but I couldn't get to it because of all those issues I had not worked through. I was unable to. And what it is it provides a nurturing environment, a place for men and women to stay who have claimed their status and don't assume again that they are victims of anything or survivors. It's not for everyone. I am not in a position to help anyone who are not in a position, at least have an effort to help themselves. I'm limited in that way. But in this program, a part of it is there is a psychological support element to it. You have to be willing to work in therapy with conjunction with partner with Grady Hospital. So, because Grady has a system that can support you in your therapy. It's a issue. It's an organization that supports you to help you do what you say you want to do with your life. I can't take that. I cannot tell you what to do with your life. You tell me, and I'll provide all the support I can provide for you to do what you say you want to do. Understanding that will not be easy. The point where I am now, I didn't get here by myself. And let me also say this. I'm in a 12-step program as well. So let's talk about just for a second, because I want you to know that there's very limited, if you're not ready or feel like you can go to a psychiatrist or therapist, get help some kind of way. And there's all kind of way to get help. Don't be in pain and not tell someone. Yeah. That's the point. So I have support in all kind of ways, and all kind of ways of getting that. So that's the New Hope Foundation. It is based on a proven foundation, the Delancey Street, that was formed in 1971, that has done an absolutely incredible job. And also, I want to thank those individuals who supported me, who provided me with plane fare to go visit that foundation. You know who you are. Highest praise. I thank you so much for your help and me doing that. I cannot do it alone. I am the provider, the passion for it. There's a lot of elements to it that I can't do. So, and I need you to help me do it.
So if someone's watching this broadcast tonight and they're saying to themselves, hey, I'm at a crossroads, I'm facing some challenges, how do they know that they're on the road to redemption, to redeeming their life, for their life to be going in the pathway that they should? How would they know if they're on that road, the right road? What would you say to them? Okay, well, you may not know, but you ask the question. If you think you know. And so, first of all, if you are having issues, and let's talk about this just for a second. Be real clear. If you're having suicidal ideation, and I'm sorry I don't have that 1-800 help number. Call. I'm sorry I don't have that number, and I should have that. But call 911. There's a 1-800 help number that'll help you, the crisis number, and they will help you 24 hours a day. So I want to put that out there. But talk to someone who you think you can confide in. Now, as far as I have, you can contact me on my I don't know if you provide my email address. It's at the bottom of the screen. Okay, fine. You can certainly email me. We can talk more about that. But
if there's someone who you think is living the life that you think you want to live, talk to them. You might have a hero. You may have someone who you admire, who you think, to see somebody the son that you want and living the life that you want to live. A lot of people really will help you. They'll be flattered. Most will be, and they'll help you. Reach out. Some will say no. Some say I can't help you. I reached out. And there are people who, again, God put in my life who have been extremely supportive and helpful for me. I wish I could name. I don't want to drop names, but some are rich and famous, some are not. But the most people who've helped me more than anything, I identify with the man under the bridge. I identify with the brother in prison.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And what I have and what I see in them, I see in me.
Excellent answer.
I'm
Excellent
no different.
answer.
I'm no different. They
we
inspire me.
Some tend, I remember years ago, I wrote this program called the Redeem Program, and it was primarily for men and women who were reentering society. Oftentimes, for people who go to church, they hear about the term redeem. They know what it means. They typically equate it to Jesus redeeming us. But for those individuals who who don't go to church, and we're not talking tonight so much about a biblical perspective, what does it mean for someone to be redeemed? Or in just layman terms, not biblical or clinical terms, but just layman terms.
How about saving yourself?
Excellent.
Saving yourself. In my Christian experience, I accept Jesus as my savior, that he died on the cross for me, and
right.
Because obviously I'll live forever. But I've met many people, and I'm talking about a 12-step program now, who have fallen out of the church. Actually, many of them won't go to church. They didn't find redemption in the church. They found redemption in sitting next to an addict or whatever the addiction might be, and they saw themselves turn their lives around. And just witnessing that was redeeming.
Wow.
So I've met wonderful people in these programs I've been in, and saw how they pulled themselves up from their bootstrap. So
how do you see the state of Black men and mental health? Because typically I've read the statistics with Black men, sometimes the issue is access. And then when there is some access, it's like finding another man who can relate, another Black man who can relate to having similar experiences. You were talking about how this isn't so much so maybe just an issue, but there's layers with, racism, sexism, classism, whatever. How do you assess Black men in the mental health sphere, if you will, in today's society? I mean, because you're a clinician, you're a minister. Again, like I said, you're like a Renaissance man in my mind, because you're so. I mean, your background is so diverse. Again, in spite of some of the things that you shared tonight, some of the pains and traumas.
Okay, so what I have found out is, well, let me just say this. The incidence of suicide among Black men, as you know, is increasing.
Yeah.
And so we know that to be a fact. Just read you very quickly here. Men are saddled with an unhealthy misconception of what it means to be strong.
Yeah.
There is an unspoken expectation to be tough and to avoid showing emotion or weakness tied to their gender. Some men fear that deviating from those stereotypes might change the way others view them. Self-care or thought of focusing on our emotional health is often viewed as emasculating. But the truth is that in order to survive, we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. Mm-hmm. We have to put our own oxygen mask on before we can help anyone else with theirs. And that includes addressing our mental health concerns. So one of the worst things I think churches in their, although well-intentioned, give. The first idea is, let me give. But you do a lot of harm if you give and you don't know who you're giving to or why you're giving. And I've had the privilege of working again with homeless men down when Pine Street was open. I'm not doing that anymore, and I miss that, but it helped me out a lot. And I wouldn't give anything to anyone who came into me for help until I asked some questions about where you're coming from. Why am I giving to you? What do you need?
What do you need? What do you need?
What I want to know something about you.
Yeah.
Because it's degrading and it's humiliating and minimalizing people to give them a sandwich and they walk away without even finding out anything about them. Mm-hmm. So a gentleman came to me once and he said, I want some money, and that's okay, fine. I'm not giving you any money. I don't know you. Tell me something about yourself. And he went on to say, he had some kids, and by what do you call them? My mother's children, however you say that. And I said, no, what is her name? Your mother, your children has a name. He gave me the name. Who are your children? What are the names? I said, I'll give you some money if you take them to get a hamburger. Oh, no, I can't do that. They don't like me and they're ashamed and all. I said, no. Those kids don't know anything except they miss you. Mm-hmm. And a hamburger with their dad could change their life. I'll give you $20 if you promise me you go take your kids to get a burger. Mm-hmm. And so I did. Now, whether he did it or not, at the time, I didn't know. 2 months later, that brother came back to me. I was real active in the church at that point. I'm not right now. And he came back to me and he thanked me. He said, my kids loved me and they missed me. And it was the best hamburger I've ever had. Wow. So you need to understand who you're giving to. See, there is no such thing as altruistic giving. There is no such thing. We all give for a reason. But you need to be really clear what your motives are for giving. And if it's not coming from the right space, it's damaging. Mother Teresa, you would think, was this wonderful saint, and she was altruistic, and she just gave. But Mother Teresa gave because she was a wonderful Christian who believed in Jesus, and that was her charge. So she was being obedient to Christ in her belief. And she believed she was supposed to help the poor. Well, she had a motive. But that was a healthy motive. Everybody gives for a reason, but be clear that you're giving from the right space. And if that gift comes from the right space, it'll work miracles.
Excellent point. I mean, you dropping some nuggets tonight. I mean, I don't know how many, I see some of the comments, but I don't know if people are really hearing and digesting, because it's one thing to hear it, but to actually digest it. I know one of the loneliest fields, careers is a minister or a preacher. That's one of the loneliest ones, because oftentimes you're to what you're saying, you give a lot, but sometimes you just drained and you don't replenish. So how do you replenish? I understand your point. This is not to your point that you just made about giving with the proper motive, but how do you replenish? How have you replenished over the years as you've given to others with the right mindset and the right motive to make sure that you're
okay. If I'm giving from the right space, not for me,
right,
but it's coming from the right space, that replenishes me.
Okay.
If I'm giving from my ego, it doesn't. Okay, let me this is many years ago. This is some time ago. I grew enchanted with organized religion. You know, this is like way back when I was seeking to be ordained and all that. And I'm glad that didn't work out, quite frankly. And so I said, I'm going to show the church up. They don't know anything about giving. They don't know nothing. And so I opened my house up. I had 3 inmates and drug addict in here, and it was a mess. At the time, I had a sports car, and so at night I'm asleep. They took my sports car. They went out and selling drugs. But I was giving from a point of ego.
Right.
It wasn't about them. It was about me trying to show the church up. I lost a lot. But back to the point of the gentleman that I said that I gave to him, I was thinking about him and his kids and the hamburgers. That replenishes me.
Okay.
Because I'm giving from the right space. I have 3 grandkids who mean more to me than anything. And I can just think about them and it replenishes me. Every day I think about them. They replenish me. I think about my daughter who is, she's fabulous. And she raised these wonderful kids. That's a gift. That replenishes me. I pray. Not as much as I should, but when I really get my prayer right, get on the right beam, that replenishes me. So that's kind of where I go. And I have some hobbies. I do interior design work. I'm creative. When I do creative stuff, that replenishes me. The show today, I was doing some gardening in the flower pots and playing in the dirt, fingernails all messed up. That replenishes me.
So your message is to those that are watching: find those things, find those spaces, find those things that really. And it's sometimes it's not hard. Sometimes it's looking at the simple things. I mean, you said you were just thinking about your grandchildren. That just required you to take a moment to stop to think about it. It didn't require you to do anything deep, if you will.
You don't work so hard at it. Just be still. Yeah. I saw a squirrel today feeding off a holly bush in my yard in the cherry, picking berries out of the holly tree. But let me also say one more thing also in terms of Black men and how difficult it is. It is difficult being Black man in America. And women are so important to Black men. We cannot do this without you. And I have this fear that women can change this around, but they don't know if they have the power to do it. Women don't know how they can do it, but you can. It hurts my heart when I hear a Black woman say there are no Black men left. That kills me. They say they either gay they married, or they in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you saying? I have this fabulous granddaughter, and you telling my granddaughter there are no black men left.
Mm-hmm.
How is she going to process that? And I call those colored women. Stay away from my granddaughter. Yes, they're gay men, but you should not be trying to marry gay men anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He's not for you, and you can't change him. If he's married, that's adultery. He ain't yours. Stay away from him. If he's in prison, there's a lot of wonderful men in prison. But you should be, women should be with your high heel shoes, banging on the prison door. Get my man out of jail. You ought to be at the judge's house, banging on the judge's door. Get my son out of jail. Get my brother out of jail. You see what I'm saying?
And there are women. There are women that are doing that.
Well, I'm just saying.
I get your point.
That one thing.
Yeah, I get
but
your point.
I'm talking to the colored women right now. That was just, but there are a lot of wonderful
Don't
black
get me in trouble.
here.
I'll even.
But now okay, I'm doing good. Let me back off. I'm just saying. I just want to make a comment to that. Yeah. But women are important to this situation, and black men, we need you.
So two final questions, kind of lightweight, and then I'll close and give you the final comments. Who are your heroes and why?
I'm sorry?
Who are your heroes and why?
Oh, God. Well, I have to say my father. My father worked so hard to do the best he can and loved me immensely. But I didn't know that till after he died. Because I put this idealistic thing on him that if he wasn't like the Leave It or Cleave It dad, he wasn't a good dad.
Okay.
And because he did protect me when I was molested, he wasn't a good dad. But in retrospect and looking back, he was a wonderful father. And he did the very best he could with what he had. My daughter is my hero. She has raised 3 wonderful, smart, charming, graceful kids. And I've seen her with those children. She's my hero. Little Levi. Little Levi is that little boy that I talked about with the 5 fishes.
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah. That was me.
Yeah.
And I'm acknowledging that he has special gifts and talents and strength and courage and fortitude. And that's my little Levi, that little boy who was molested and overcame and survivor is my hero.
Excellent. Excellent. One final question. You studied in Paris.
I did.
I've never been to Paris. Want to get to Paris. Why should I want to get to Paris? And where should I go?
Okay. Let me tell you about Paris. When I was in college, my father asked me that too. Why you want to go to Paris? Why can't you be like anybody else?
Yeah.
Where do you get all these ideas from? What's wrong with you? Oh, Daddy, give me the money. I want to go.
All right.
There was a program when I was in college where you could take I took French in college, and you can take your final semester of your foreign language in France.
Oh, wow.
And so I took my final lesson my senior year in college to go to France. That's what I told my dad.
Okay.
But what I really wanted to do, I wanted to explore. I wanted to find myself.
Okay.
That's had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Now, why did I go to Africa to find myself? Why France? That's another story.
Okay.
That's another segment.
Yeah.
But I did go. I studied at the Sorbonne, and I did pass. I did get my grade. I have to show my kids my, they wouldn't believe it, my little ID card from the Sorbonne. And they wouldn't believe it was me. But it was a wonderful experience. But one of the best things about that trip, though, when I went to Paris, it was the first time I was not aware that I was a black person. And it was wonderful to go someplace where you're not so conscious of your race.
Okay. I mean, James Baldwin left to go there.
Well, actually, I was looking for James Baldwin.
Okay.
He has friends here in Atlanta, and every time he would come to Atlanta, he would look up my friend, and I was invited to go to his house several times, but I never would go. I never met him. But sometimes you have to go to Paris to find yourself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
So off mic or off this interview, we'll sit down and you'll give me kind of the scoop of what to do and what not to do, and finding myself, I guess, when I go over to Paris, because I really would love to go visit the Eiffel Tower and drink some wine and see what it's all about. Yeah,
well, it's again, I've been there more than once. That was my first time when I was in school. And then I've been twice since then, because the job I had, that the home office was in England. And so we would go to England to the home office. And while there, I got a chance to kind of skip around a little bit. So that was not my first time there. Okay. But it's not the same, though. It's very nationalistic, and they're not too fond of Americans right now. So I want to rethink that. But I do suggest you go abroad.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Oh, yeah. It's just so good. The world does not revolve around America.
That's true. I know that to be true.
When you get out of America for a while, you'll be amazed. So the best experience, as I said, it was in Paris, was not being so conscious of my blackness. And that's what I got.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. For those of you that have tuned in tonight, we've had a rich, almost 1 hour conversation about what it means to have some trauma, overcome that trauma. Minister Levi talked about some strategies. Make sure you watch this broadcast after we conclude it. Watch it again for things that you missed probably in the first half of it. But again, this is the first in a series of shows that we're going to do around mental health. We want to, again, bring you people who have had journeys and who have expertise in that field. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. Continued blessings again to everyone who in Mississippi, Georgia, the Southeast, who experienced this bad weather the last few days. We're praying and believing that things will be better for you. And for those of you who Join our show every week. Make sure you watch us next week. We got a special show next week. And, I forgot to say this. Coming up on the 20th will be our first international show. We're going to be speaking with our guests from Nigeria, and it's a special time, so it won't be in the evening. So we'll put that information out ahead of time so you can plan accordingly. But the next voice you'll hear as we conclude this show is that of Minister Levi Butler. He's going to give some final comments in this discussion that we had tonight, and then we're going to hop off, and then he and I are going to chat afterwards. So thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you click the share and like button on Facebook and that subscribe button on YouTube, and click that bell. Minister Levi Butler with the final words.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Carson, for the opportunity to share. And it has been indeed my pleasure to do so. I must say, you kept me up a couple of nights trying to think about what to say and all that, but I'm so pleased that you gave me this moment. In closing, what I'd like to say is that what Mark Twain says is the best of time, it was the worst of time. And it's a difficult time right now for many of us, and during this COVID and pandemic and all this stuff. But somehow we all have been affected, whether you know it or not, by these moments. But also, I say that you have everything you need to overcome any experience you may have. And if you don't deal with those experiences, they're going to deal with you. You're not alone. Ask for help. Reach out for the people that God has placed in your life, or whatever faith you may have. For me, it's God. I have a friend who's Hindu, but it's an inside job, but you can do it. I am claiming that I am a survivor, and so are you. God bless you. Highest praise.